Ideal mesmo para o mundo atual seria fazer o ensino médio junto com o curso técnico, certo? É no Senac que o aluno tem autonomia de verdade, formação cidadã, foco na diversidade, preparação para o Enem, material didático sem taxas e muito mais. Na real, tem tudo que você precisa para se sentir preparado para a vida. Seja para entrar no mundo do trabalho ou te ajudar a decidir o que fazer na faculdade. Quer saber? Senac. Vem comigo! Acesse sp.senac.br/ensino-médio-técnico.
Today on CityCast Philly, first-year Philly Councilmember Landau is waging a battle on two fronts. She's convening hearings to try to protect Philly from policies that might come out of the new Trump administration. And she's one of few council members opposed to the proposed arena in Center City for the Sixers. This is our weekly politics episode. It's Wednesday, December 11th. I'm Trenae Nuri, and here's what Philly's talking about.
I'm Councilmember Landau. I'm a brand new council person who just started in January, but by training, I'm a civil rights and housing attorney. Represented low-income tenants at Community Legal Services for a decade, and then I ran the city's Human Relations Commission and Fair Housing Commission for over a decade more. Those are the civil rights and housing enforcement agencies for the city. So I come with a background in civil rights, a background in housing, and super happy to be elected to city council to start using my skills there. And I have the great graces of being also the first openly LGBTQ council person in Philadelphia, which is amazing. We made it to 2024 without one, but I'm so happy to break into that role and to bring many, many others along with me.
So how do you feel in your first year in office? Almost your first year in office.
It has been great. It has been very, very busy. And there's a lot to learn, you know. There's no guidebook that comes with what we're doing. So figuring that all out. And then I was able to introduce some legislation and resolutions that I'd love to talk to you about, but then quickly went into budget season, quickly went into, after that, the most important election of our lifetime, and now are grappling with the big issue of the arena. So it has been extremely busy. And, thankfully still got a lot of great stuff done, but it has been a very, very busy time.
We're going to definitely talk about the arena later, but I want to talk about last month. You introduced a resolution to council and it was approved, and you're calling for hearings to get Philly ready for the Trump administration. Councilmember, what policies are you afraid of from the Trump administration after Donald Trump is inaugurated next month?
Well, first to say there's a lot to be scared about. Well, an awful lot to be worried about here. I was the director of the city's civil rights agency during Trump's first term. I know firsthand what it's like to be working in government and to be trying to protect people's rights and battle back against his attempts to dismantle rights, to roll back protections, and basically to dismantle democracy. Not only did we enforce, at my previous job, did I enforce the civil rights laws in Philadelphia, but I also, did a lot of conflict resolution work on the streets and dealt with a lot of hate crimes and bias incidents. And literally the day after the general election, the first time he was elected, immediately the calls started to come in of bias incidents and hate crimes throughout the city. So many more than people knew in the press. It was a very scary time. So we have not only the big policy and legislative ideas of what he wants to do, but it immediately trickles down into the neighborhoods and gives people license to act on their fears and their hate and their understanding. So you've kind of got to be in every single area at all times.
What policies do you feel could directly impact Philadelphians?
Well, we have extremely strong civil rights laws in the books. Philly has been the greatest at this. We've been at the forefront of protecting people's civil rights. We have included sexual orientation into our law in 1982. We included gender identity in 2002. We've got great executive orders protecting immigrants to the strongest degree we possibly can under law, to say that we're not going to coordinate unnecessarily with the federal government pertaining to undocumented people. We've got even a slew of laws that are protecting our reproductive freedoms the best that we can on a local level, even though that's more of a state issue. So I need to start answering that question by saying that we have built a very strong structure here. What I think the fear is, Trump 1.0, his first time around, tried to dismantle a lot of things on the federal level and also give states the authority to enact restrictive laws that really would roll back protections on all of these groups. But it also, what I think we're worried about in 2.0 is that he is going to try this time to do things that he didn't try before. So whether this is immediately rolling back restrictions with the federal government civil service, or whether this is quickly trying to change the authority that all of our departments and federal departments and agencies work, that is the concern, that this will be much more widespread and quicker than happened before. There's a lot of work for a lot of lawyers to do starting on January 20th.
He keeps talking about mass deportations. Are we going to see federal troops deporting Philadelphia residents from the city? And what can city council actually do to protect those residents?
I really can't underscore this enough, that one of the reasons why I talk about federal policy and actions and also federal rhetoric is because there is a larger harm than even the thing that he says he wants to do. And it is the sheer fear that is running through communities throughout the city, that the rhetoric, the dogma, what he's saying, what he's even intending to put in place have real life consequences for a lot of people long before his attempts would go into action. It is I'm not sure exactly how he's attempting to do all of these things. Can he do some of them? Sure, maybe, yes. Will he be able to do anything as quickly as he's saying? No, I do not think so. I do not think, certainly, we don't even have the structure in place. We don't have the coordination. We don't have the cooperation in place. So you might see immediate attempts at steps towards deportation, but you're not going to see people going through this process that quickly. There's also going to be a lot of lawsuits, individual and larger scale ones, and they will have to make their way through the court, hopefully, unless there's injunctions that are in place. They would have to get through the courts before they can do some of what they want to do. Is there the real fear that this can happen? Absolutely. There are, the law is set up that if you are in this country undocumented, you're technically here illegally. So therefore, if you wanted to remove those folks, you would have to go through the removal process to get somebody out. But it's a long process, and they do not have enough staffing in ICE. They don't have enough staffing in the court system for immigrants. It will take a while to get this in place, and hopefully we'll have some successes in the courts in the meantime.
But Philly is technically a sanctuary city for undocumented immigrants, for an example. Is that enough to protect that community?
I think the best I can say right now is that the city will do everything in my opinion, as far as from a city council person's perspective, the city will do everything in its power to protect its residents. I'm assuming and hoping that they recommit to the laws that we have on the books that include executive orders, which are laws that are put in place only by the mayor, and to reassure us that we will do everything that we possibly can. It's a little hard to answer your question because we don't know exactly what will happen. And this hearing that I will hold will really dig in deeper to this, to have the Parker administration come to the table and tell us their plans. But with a coordinated effort and us all being on the same page with the schools and the city government, going from the mayor and also obviously having our state and federal partners, we can be sure to offset some of the harm.
And when are these hearings going to happen?
We are still scheduling it, certainly before inauguration. And I'm really hoping that this not only offsets the harm, but offsets some of the fear.
We'll definitely keep an eye out for when the hearing is scheduled. After the break, we'll talk more on the politics shaping Philly.
Tem um momento na carreira que precisamos dar um passo além. É hora de fazer uma pós-graduação. Só que muitas vezes o custo pesa no bolso, inviabilizando tudo. Com a pós-graduação do Senac, você não tem esse problema. Cursos com até 50% de desconto e muito mais tempo para pagar. TCC opcional, modelo flexível com aulas presenciais e online e alguns cursos com apenas 12 meses de duração. Não tem mais desculpa, hein? Saiba mais em sp.senac.br/pós-graduação.
Esse podcast é um oferecimento de Samsung Galaxy AI. E sabe o que mais ele te oferece? Que tal uma nova maneira de buscar na internet a partir de fotos ou do que está na sua tela? Fácil, fácil. Viu? Circulou? Encontrou. Ou quem sabe um assistente de notas para gravar reuniões, transcrever gravações e organizar, produzindo resumos eficientes. Tem tanta coisa que o Samsung Galaxy AI pode fazer por você. Clique aí no banner para descobrir o que. Galaxy AI, a inteligência artificial nas suas mãos.
So, Councilmember, I heard you say, a lot of legal issues can come up with all of this. What can City Council do to reassure us that you all have our back?
Well, I introduced a resolution recently, and we'll hold a hearing certainly before the inauguration that really will look deeply into the city's readiness and commitment to protect marginalized communities like the immigrant community, LGBTQ plus community, even looking at our readiness for protecting reproductive rights here in Philadelphia. As I said, Philadelphia has great laws on the books. We have some of the strongest local civil rights laws in the country. And we've done that intentionally to make sure that Philly can protect Philadelphians. Some of it will be state specific. We've always had, again, that oftentimes have had the protection, what we're so lucky now to have a Democratic governor who has our backs without a doubt. And we've at times had friends in federal government, whether it's the presidency or departments and agencies that also have had Philly's back and want to make sure that they are enforcing the same protections that we have in Philadelphia. But that is not going to be true. And we are ready for an onslaught of hateful laws and policies that will come out of this government that are going to try to roll back and strip us of our rights. It doesn't look the way necessarily people think it's going to look. It's not. The president tells you, Philadelphia, you no longer are allowed to have anti-discrimination laws on the books for people based on sexual orientation and gender identity. It might look more, and I'm not 100% positive. I shouldn't predict anything with this administration, but what what I think you will see, at least in the beginning, is federal funding that's tied to these things.
Okay, so you're talking about public schools, healthcare,
Yes.
environmental protections. That's what concerns you?
Yes. What is concerning to me is how they will try to say that you are no longer able to provide gender affirming care for transgender young people in particular. That's one of the topics that's been up. We just had an argument at the U.S. Supreme Court on this. I am concerned that they will, ensure that federal funding is cut if you do anything with undocumented folks. There are other ways in which they will try to put more roadblocks in place for even caring for poor people in a way. They might start talking about block grants. So we'll just give a block grant to a state, and that should be enough. Let the state deal with the money on certain federal benefits like SNAP benefits, otherwise known as food stamps. All of these will come in ways in which might not look as scary as they are, but it is. But I think there's ways in which we as a city can try to offset that. If we need to move money around, whether it's from even now, from the federal government to the state and the state to the city in all sorts of ways, that's certainly helpful. We have our council president recently pulled together an interagency task force meeting with our partners at the federal and state level, with elected officials, talking about how are ways in which we can predict what likely will happen and move grant money into safer spaces if we need to say we need to fund this through another pocket versus how we've been getting that money in the past. It's a lot of preparedness that has to go into place for these things.
Like we said in the beginning, this is your first year. You've already been thrown in the middle of huge issues. For example, the Sixers Arena proposal next to Chinatown. You're one of 3 council members who had voted against the Sixers Arena plans. What are your concerns with this plan?
We just haven't gotten enough information. We're being asked to vote on something where we do not have all of the details. And I'm the kind of person who I want the information ahead of time before I'm making a final decision.
So what questions do you want the Sixers to answer?
The biggest ones are that the community benefits agreement that has been put forth was, one, not negotiated with the community. It was only negotiated with the mayor's administration, and that it's insufficient. And then 2, that one of the biggest questions is about SEPTA. The arena, the city's own impact statement said that 40% of the people going to games or shows has to take SEPTA to make sure that we don't have gridlock with transportation and traffic in the area. And SEPTA has now come to the table and said, well, in order to do that, we need X amount of money. And when we've asked the Sixers, are you going to pay for this? They said, no, we're only going to pay for the part that is associated with transforming Market East, the Jefferson Station, to conform to the arena that they're putting above it. So still a lot of questions to be answered. Structurally, we don't have a final design look. We don't really know what it's going to fully look like. There's a lot of trust us coming out. We got this, there's a plan. But I think it's not just council people. I think people across the city, the Philadelphians, we've heard it loud and clear. They want more information. This was a time frame that has been set by the Sixers. They wanted this done by the end of the year. The Parker administration wants it done by the end of the year, and it's a rushed process for something that it has every single detail matters, and every action we take on this will have a reaction. And if we don't fully understand what that is, then we're not even going to know how to plan for the reactions. So whether it's traffic, whether it's the effects on Chinatown, whether it is the effects on SEPTA, we just don't have all of what we need to know. I think when we talk about the arena, it is extremely important to note that the union construction jobs and the union jobs that will be created for working inside of the arena are essential for a city. I love this. I think that we finally in Philadelphia have created some pathways for Black and brown Philadelphians who have not normally had a path into the unions to have it now, to have these great jobs with incredible wages and benefits. I definitely want the expansion of that, and I love the pipeline of that. I think the biggest question has been, and nobody has any question about that, the biggest question has been the location of this arena.
Okay, so I have to ask you a follow-up to that. Like, where in the city would you prefer to have this arena?
I don't know if my preference takes any note at this point. What we've heard in the hearings is people saying we have a wonderful stadium district, an arena district down in South Philadelphia. People have given us lots and lots of other great ideas, but certainly we don't want them going to Camden, but there are other locations.
So you made reference to the community benefits agreement, and Sixers representatives are pledging $50 million under that agreement. Would more money from the Sixers sway you in any way?
I think what we have seen so far is that there are not enough no votes to stop this. So I just want to be really clear that the problem is that this package will pass. And the real challenge right now is to get much more money from the Sixers to the community, to SEPTA, to offset all of the effects that will happen from this, because this is on a path that is pretty apparent at this point. Will more money help? Absolutely. This will have a very, very negative effect on a lot of surrounding and ancillary things, and we need it funded. And to do it without the funding is just really going to put us in a very, very bad place.
So bottom line, not a done deal yet.
Not a done deal yet, but it's all up to them. Let's see the Sixers come back to the table and bring us more to offset what will be some harm. And then, this is one phase. This is the zoning approval phase. There's some other things that are going to need to happen to see whether or not they have an arena that can fit in that space and can do what they say it's going to do. So that is it.
Councilmember, thank you so much. And we'll be watching and hope to have you back on the show to talk about other issues happening in the city.
Thank you so much.
Hey Philly, this is Matt Katz, executive producer of CityCast Philly. I'm popping in to let you know that we are hiring a senior accounts executive to lead advertising sales in our market. If you have a track record in sales, if you've got strong relationships with local businesses, if you're into podcasts and the news, if you live here, and if you love this town, we want you. Join our team and make a real impact by connecting Philly businesses with our incredible community of listeners. Apply now at citycast.fm/jobs.
That's all for today here on CityCast Philly. If you enjoyed this episode with Councilmember Landau, tell your neighbor, rate the show, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to sign up for our morning newsletter, Hey Philly, to learn more about what else Philly's talking about. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.